From Julia Roberts to Jessica Lange to Lady Gaga, it seems all of Hollywood is clamoring to work with this uber producer and director. But why? The Ryan Murphy effect.
And that's what you missed on Glee. As we head into sectionals, I want to get some feedback. Like, what kind of stuff you guys would like to be doing? Is there anything, any music in particular that you guys want to do?
Could we maybe try something a little more black?
I agree. We do an awful lot of show tunes.
It's Glee Club, not Crunk Club. Don't make me take you to the carpet.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mercedes, Kurt. Duly noted.
For a network show in the early 2010s, Glee was considered progressive in the themes and stories it explored surrounding teen sexuality. However, the show still faced criticism from fans and non-fans alike, especially regarding its racial representation. Glee had 3 showrunners, Ian Brennan, Brad Falchuk, and Ryan Murphy. Oddly, Murphy is often referred to as Glee's creator, despite his fellow showrunners Brennan and Falchuk being the ones to come up with the idea. Murphy is praised in Hollywood, and his name tends to overshadow the other writers, directors, and producers he collaborates with. Lynn Joyrich references The New Normal as another example of this phenomenon, as co-producer Allison Adler is often overlooked in discourse surrounding the show. I started using the phrase the Ryan Murphy effect in conversations with friends in queer media studies classes to describe the simultaneously groundbreaking and norm-building quality of Ryan Murphy productions. The term has shown up just a couple of times in my research with vague and conflicting definitions.
What's amazing is I get to call people and say, I just want to meet you. And I guess 9 times out of 10, they'll say yes.
In Hollywood, people use this term to praise Murphy for his success and influence in television. While I recognize Murphy's impact, I want to complicate this definition with a consideration of the normative foundations of his texts. This dichotomy of being both groundbreaking and norm-building is true for all of Murphy's productions, from American Horror Story to Hollywood to Pose to his recent monster anthology covering the cases of Jeffrey Dahmer and the Menendez brothers. We also see this in the first successful cable show he made, Nip Tuck. Murphy has a knack for creating emotionally impactful but deeply disjointed television series, and his success as a white man in Hollywood allows him to continue making content shaped by neoliberal assumptions and ideals. Glee was created for what Ron Becker coins the slumpy class, which he defines as the population of socially liberal, urban-minded professionals. As a product of network television, it is unsurprising to learn that the show pays only periodic and insubstantial attention to issues of race. The featured storylines on Glee, especially in its early seasons, follow white, heterosexual, and able-bodied characters.
Define Gravity? I have an iPod Shuffle dedicated exclusively to selections from Wicked. This is amazing.
Think you can handle it, Rachel?
It's my go-to shower song. It's also my ringtone. Why do we have to go all vanilla on this song? See, what we need is my chocolate thunder.
Okay, we don't have time to rearrange a song for you, Mercedes. Rachel is singing it. Don't worry, we'll find something for you to dip in chocolate. On to item 2.
Kristen Warner defines plastic representation as a combination of synthetic elements put together and shaped to look like meaningful imagery. Plastic representation refers to the casting of non-white actors for the appearance of diversity without the care in crafting meaningful, situated stories for their characters. Ironically, when Will says he'll find a song for Mercedes to dip in chocolate, he is using the same metaphor Warner uses to critique this phenomenon. Under the guise of comedic exaggeration, all of the show choirs the New Directions compete against are composed of one stereotypical identifier. Of course, this is done intentionally, as it narratively positions the New Directions as the only diverse choir group in the area. This is also done under the premise of exaggeration for comedy, but it's not actually funny if the subjects of the jokes aren't the ones doing the writing. Jenna Ushkowitz, who plays Tina, is Korean, and Harry Shum Jr., who plays Mike, is a Costa Rican-born Chinese-American. Both of their characters are consistently reduced to the broad and reductive label of simply Asian throughout the series. Additionally, the showrunners constantly play on stereotypes.
My son got an A- on his chemistry test. An A- is an Asian F.
In contrast, characters such as Rachel Berry and Finn Hudson receive extensive exploration into their ethnicity, culture, and family life. Because it is hollow, a plastic representation can only approximate depth.
You were right to shine the spotlight on the fact that those kids are minorities. Because you're all minorities. You're in the Glee Club.
Let's look more closely at Mercedes Jones, the sole Black character afforded even a minor role on the series. Alexander Doty notes the stereotypical construction of Mercedes Jones's character in the first season, where she is positioned as a Black diva with a gay diva best friend who offers wise advice, sympathy, and a place to stay to knocked-up blonde cheerleader Quinn. In Defying Blackness, the Erasure of Mercedes Jones, Anita M. DeRuin examines how the character's experience with a supposedly meritocratic system allows the show's writers and producers to uphold a veneer of equality in a system that's anything but equal. By the third season, Mercedes is nearly invisible to Will, despite being a founding member of the club. In the same episode where the writers call an A- an Asian F, Will Schuester is shocked to learn that Mercedes is tied with Rachel for the lead of Maria in West Side Story.
We have two very strong but very different candidates tied for the role.
Rachel Berry and...
Mercedes.
Amber Riley is the only Black series regular on Glee for the first 3 seasons, and the character she portrays is constantly overlooked or reduced to stereotypes within the story, just like Jenna Ushkowitz and Harry Shum Jr.'s characters. Dijon Talton, who played Matt Rutherford, one of the football players who joined the New Directions in Season 1, was barely a part of the cast. He had no lines and disappeared by the start of the second season. As Doty puts it, the marginalized identities on the show were consistently used to create a colorfully diverse narrative and musical background for the straight, white, able-bodied characters. How could Glee have avoided this? As Warner notes, actual progress would involve adding dimension and specificity to roles, with diverse bodies shaping those roles at the level of producing and writing. Glee aired on Fox from 2009 to 2015, with its final episode dropping just 3 months before national marriage equality passed in the United States. Within the first 2 minutes of Glee, we meet 2 characters coded as gay. The first is Kurt Hummel, the student getting bullied at the top of the episode.
It's hammer time.
Please, this is from Marc Jacobs' new collection.
Wait.
Okay.
The second gay character we are introduced to is Sandy Ryerson, a pedophile who is shown inappropriately touching a student during a singing lesson. In both of these cases of representation, the character's homosexuality is presented as either a joke or a threat. Glee goes on to explore slightly more complex queer storylines in subsequent seasons, but nevertheless remains committed to plastic representation and homonormativity throughout its run. Homonormativity, coined by Lisa Duggan in her 2002 essay, refers to a gay sexual politics that upholds dominant heteronormative institutions by privileging practices like monogamy and marriage in homosexual relationships. Glee closely follows this framework in almost every way. Firstly, Glee positions heterosexuality at the center of its narrative. Rachel Berry and Finn Hudson are the driving heteromantic couple throughout the series, and Will Schuester's position as the choir teacher allows writers to access an older demographic. Glee pays little attention to bisexuality and outright dismisses asexuality. Finally, Glee needs to have its 2 homosexual couples get married before concluding the series, as this is the path to fulfillment within a heteromantic logic. While the straight characters experience multiple weddings on screen, the gay relationships on Glee are forced to share their wedding day in a last-minute mashup ceremony. The queer storylines that the Glee showrunners spend time exploring are monogamous and privileged masculine points of view. Take Santana's coming out storyline, for example.
Hey, Santana, why don't you just come out of the closet? You know what I think you are? A coward.
I can't believe this is happening.
I'm so sorry.
I haven't even told my parents yet.
As Taylor Cole Miller puts it in Forced Out of the Flannel Closet, Glee positions Finn, the straight, white, able-bodied jock, as Santana's guide, because it needs to find ways to allow hegemonic heteronormativity seem approving of homosexuality to advance its activist intentions. In comparison, the show grants narrative agency to Kurt when he comes out to his father.
I'm gay.
If that's who you are, there's nothing I can do about it. And I love you just as much.
This conversation was a remarkable moment for network television, as it was quite radical for programs to discuss teen sexuality in any explicit terms, let alone gay sexuality. However, in both Santana and Kurt's cases, they need to announce their sexuality to be accepted by their community, reinforcing normative conceptions of what it looks like to be queer. Hollywood is a business first, so financial concerns necessarily drive productions. Because of this, producers and showrunners want to appeal to the largest audience possible while still dipping their toes in inclusivity. Homonormativity values assimilationist over confrontational tactics, and people who subscribe to the ideology will rhetorically distance themselves from non-normative identities like bisexuality, pansexuality, asexuality, or polyamory. As Himberg puts it in The New Gay for Pay, homonormative representations are problematically presented as natural rather than as constructed, thereby imposing an unrealistic set of norms on LGBT individuals, couples, and communities. Despite sensing the problematic quality of Glee, it has been one of my biggest guilty pleasure shows since I first watched it in 2017. As a lesbian who once identified as more sexually fluid and cherishes the friends to lovers trope, I found myself identifying with Santana and idealizing her relationship with Brittany. Karen Tongson defines normporn as a contrastingly ambivalent and emotionally charged viewing practice where queer audiences feel a sense of involuntary shame when we find ourselves enjoying normative content that produces basic feelings. While Tongson limits her argument to the sentimental realist subgenre of drama in network TV, she suggests that the definition can be expanded. I believe Glee is an example of normporn in the musical comedy genre, as it upholds systems of normalcy through its homosexual relationships and predominantly white storylines. In a post to Flow in 2011, Miller shared the data he collected regarding Glee's audience. The overwhelming majority, 62%, were straight women. 18% were gay men, 10% were bisexual women, and more straight men responded than lesbians. Miller argues that Glee's audience is an extension of Becker's slumpy class, as most of his respondents were either straight women who loved Kurt or gay men who loved Santana. Interestingly, while the gay men in the survey watched Glee largely for the entertainment value of the show, the surveyed straight women preferred to watch Glee and Kurt because they thought he represented a well-intentioned, progressive step for young gay audiences. Alice Marwick's findings were similar in her essay, Dolphins Are Just Gay Sharks. Glee had a significant cultural impact while airing, with shows like The Office, Community, and even Sesame Street referencing the Fox musical comedy in featured episodes. Despite concluding its run 10 years ago, Glee lives on in public memory, and thanks to streaming, continues to amass new audiences every year on Hulu and Disney+. Because of this, it's important to critically analyze how the show supports normative values, while also acknowledging the places where Glee pushed against boundaries for its time. This phenomenon of plastic representation and homonormativity in television doesn't end with Glee, as showrunner Ryan Murphy continues to spearhead problematic productions. This is a pattern in Hollywood, where white men use similar tactics of using their gay identity to align themselves with edge while shielding themselves from criticism of the normative storylines they promote. An element that I believe is more unique to Murphy specifically is the way he receives credit as if he were a solitary showrunner, despite always collaborating with other people. He picks and chooses which shows to be associated with based on what will best benefit his image, and his privilege as a white gay man in American society allows him to perpetuate normativity while preaching individuality. And maybe I'm making the problem worse by naming this phenomenon after him, but the white gay cis male showrunner in America effect doesn't roll off the tongue quite as nicely.